Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. November 27th, 2017.
The Kuhner Report, presented by Kelly Financial Services. This is the Kuhner Report.
I'm back, my friends. Okay, the Kuhner man is refreshed, recharged, ready to go. Had a nice week vacation, full week. Haven't had one of those in a long time. A wonderful Thanksgiving. Also saw some family north of the border up in Canada. Visited my dad. Went for a 50th birthday party for my older sister-in-law. And honestly, just had a nice 7 days off. Well, the Kuhner man comes back, and guess what? Now it's John Conyers in the hot seat. What is it with so many of these politicians and sexual harassment? So, as you know, Congressman John Conyers, a prominent member of the Congressional Black Caucus, a rabid liberal, has been in the House of Representatives now for decades, one of the longest-serving members of the House of Representatives. Well, he's now in a lot of hot water. This is the man who drew up articles of impeachment against George W. Bush. This is the man who's been leading the fight to impeach President Trump. So he is a darling on the far left. The progressives and the moonbats love this guy. And I was waiting for the shoe to finally drop on him. Because after spending 10 years in Washington, it's an open secret. This guy has a problem with women. And now women are coming out of the woodwork. So far, at least 4. Many more are expected to come out saying that he sexually assaulted them, that he made all kinds of sexual advances, sexual harassment, was touching them, groping them, trying to force them, almost blackmail them to have sex with him. And in particular, one that we know of, was forced into that secret mechanism that I talked about several weeks ago, whereby Congress and members of Congress use taxpayer money to settle these issues, to protect politicians through a secret slush fund. And he was able to gain access to taxpayer money to pay off a settlement to a former staffer who complained that he sexually came on to her, wanted to have sexual relations. When she said no, she said that he then retaliated against her and essentially fired her for not wanting to sleep with the boss. They went into this mediation process that takes place, whereby, the lawyers get involved. Conyers eventually settled with our money $27,000. Essentially, they rehired her for 3 months. She did nothing for 3 months. And then after 3 months, they let her go. They had her sign a non-disclosure agreement, so it was all hush-hush. In other words, it was a massive cover-up. Now you have staffers coming out saying they had complained repeatedly that he would force them to drive his mistresses to certain condos or apartments or locations whereby Conyers would want to have rendezvous with these women. When these staffers didn't want to do it, he retaliated against them as well. And so now the accusations are piling up. Remember, he has effectively pled guilty by playing out the settlement. And in that secret process, he paid it out. She got her $27,000. There was an internal investigation. He couldn't deny it, so he paid the money, our money. So Nancy Pelosi, the piranha, again confronted with liberal hypocrisy and liberal phoniness, was on Chuck You, Chuck Todd, Meet the Mess. And so, of course, Chucky asked her, what do you make now of all these sexual harassment allegations in the wake of Harvey Weinstein? And she's part of the hashtag Me Too movement. She says it's an incredible thing for women. Women are finally being empowered. Roll it, Brittany.
I think that something incredible wonderful is happening now. Very credible. It's 100 years, almost 100 years since women got the right to vote. Here we are, almost 100 years later, and something very transformative is happening. That is, women are saying, zero tolerance, no more, and we're going to speak out on it. And this is so wholesome, so refreshing, so different.
That's incredible. I mean, look at her. It's so wholesome. It's so different. Women have waited 100 years for this. They got the right to vote almost 100 years ago, but they've never had true empowerment. So according to the Piranha, now they're finally getting justice. So Chuck You, Chuck Todd asks the obvious question. Well, what about your buddy and pal, part of the club, John Conyers? Ooh, very different response. Zero tolerance went to tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. Roll it, Brittany.
So define zero tolerance. You said there's now a zero tolerance.
Yes.
John Conyers, what does that mean for him now?
Let's say
in or out?
We are strengthened by due process. Just because someone is accused, and was it one accusation? Is it two? I think there has to be. John Conyers is an icon in our country. He has done a great deal to protect women, Violence Against Women Act, which the right wing is now quoting me as praising him for his work on that, and he did great work on that. But the fact, as John reviews his case, which he knows, which I don't, I believe he will do. I believe that he will. Excuse me, may I finish my sentence? Sure. That he will do the right thing.
He's an icon. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, it's laughable. Now, he has temporarily stepped down from his ranking position. He's the ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee. Now, temporarily. But he hasn't resigned his seat. He's from that district in Michigan. The guy's been from there practically forever. No one's even asking for him to resign. The Piranha's not asking for him to step aside and step down and resign his seat. Now, she says he needs due process. He already had his due process. They went through that internal mechanism, that internal investigation that takes place on Capitol Hill. Guess what? He had his due process. And you know what he did? He paid the money. And you know why he paid the money? Because he's guilty as sin. But he didn't pay with his money. He paid with our money. In fact, if you want to be technical, money that was allocated to the office, his budget, the budget to run his office, which we, the taxpayers, pay for. It didn't come technically from the slush fund. It came from the money for the budget for his office. But the point is, he already had due process. He paid. It's an admission of guilt. That's point number one. Point number two, it's not one woman or two women. There are now at least four, and they're counting. More to come. Look, as I said earlier, I was in Washington, D.C. for 10 years as the assistant national editor for the Washington Times. It's an open secret what kind of a guy John Conyers was and is. In fact, I was waiting for this bombshell to drop, saying Conyers is eventually going to be outed. The guy's a pig. The man's an office pig. Everybody knows it. The whole city knows it. But look how when it comes to defending their own, all of a sudden, zero tolerance right out the window. Zero tolerance right out the door. Suddenly, when he's pro-Trump impeachment, and that's why they want him on the House Judiciary Committee, he's the guy they want to draw up the articles of impeachment if the Democrats should sweep back into power in the House. And let's be candid, like Al Franken, he's pro-Planned Parenthood. So if you're pro-abortion, they don't care what you do. You can grab them, you can grope them, You can assault him. You can do anything you want. You can have your staffers going around Washington, D.C., driving his mistresses to motel after motel after motel. It doesn't matter. If you're in the pocket of Planned Parenthood and you're pro-abortion, these are Democrats. They don't care. But if you're Roy Moore, so far it's been nothing but allegations. No evidence. Conyers, he settled. There's evidence. Now, let's take Al Frankenstein. So, Al Franken, the Kuhner man goes up to Canada for a couple of days. More women come out of the woodwork. And apparently there are many more to come. This time, it's not him sticking his tongue down the throat of a former model actress on a USO tour, or it's not him with a photograph grabbing her breasts as they're flying back. This time now, he's got a problem with women's behinds. In particular, he can't stop grabbing them. So now women are coming out, and apparently one even has pictures saying when they took photos with Al Frankenstein, when they were taking pictures with a sexy Al, that suddenly the hand's on the shoulder. Before you know it, he's grabbing her rear end. And so women after woman after woman after woman are now coming out saying, he kept grabbing me and he didn't care. And so now the drumbeat is getting louder for this sexist pig to resign. But when he went on Minnesota Public Radio, listen now to Senator Al Frankenstein say, me resign? Why should I resign? This is a learning experience for me and for women. You see, that's how we learn. We learn through our mistakes. Roll it, Brit.
First of all, I just want to say that this whole thing has been, embarrassing and, and it's been difficult. But part of that is that I want to respect a woman's experience. Very often there are these kinds of things and allegations, and that I believe that women should be respected and listened to. This is what I'm doing. I'm taking responsibility. I apologize to the women who have felt disrespected. I'm someone who, hugs people. And I've learned from these stories that in some of these encounters, I've crossed a line for some women.
This shameless pervert. No, really, I listened to this guy, and I'm like, you pathetic loser, you. Okay, look, I like to give hugs, too. Okay? For those of you that saw me at the Bill Kelly event that we had on Saturday, by the way, great crowd, and it was great to see all of you. So I greet people afterwards. And they shake my hand and stuff. Some of them say, hey, Jeff, can you give me a hug? Hey, Jeff, can I get a hug? Yeah, I hug. I hug at the shoulders, maybe a little bit at the back. But I don't grab their rear ends. I mean, hey, Al, the last time I checked, hugging doesn't mean grabbing somebody's, somebody's tush. Maybe that's you, Al, but that's not me and that's not most people. And then I love this shtick. Look at his shtick now. If women feel disrespected, and if they felt disrespected, if you felt it, I just want to say I'm sorry. If you felt it. You mean when you stick your tongue down her throat, if she feels disrespected. You mean when you grab her rear end and you're groping her. I mean, if she feels disrespected. I got to start using that excuse. I mean, really, I should pull an Al Frankenstein. Really, I should pull an Al Frankenstein. I should go around the office and say, let me stick my tongue down a woman's throat. Say, if you felt disrespected, I'm sorry. Look at her. Let me grab her rear end. If you felt disrespected, I'm sorry. I've got to say this. I've said it now, I think maybe 4 or 5 times. I got to say it again. What is it with these politicians and actors, people of power and privilege, who feel they can just walk up to anybody and grab their breasts or grab their rear end and just touch them? I'm looking at this like, what? Like, how does this happen? That you think there's going to be no consequences and no accountability, that you can treat people any way you want to treat them, and treat them with such blatant disrespect. My friends, let me tell you what all of this to me shows crystal clear. It is time for term limits. It is time to end these people's power and finally say enough is enough. When you have a permanent ruling class, when you have people like Conyers, who have been in Congress for decades, or Al Frankenstein, who thinks he's entitled to be the senator of Minnesota forever, this is the kind of behavior you get. And my question now is this: where is Elizabeth Warren? Where is Nancy the Piranha Pelosi? Where is Chuck U. Schumer? Where is Hillary Rotten Clinton? How come they, part of the Me Too movement, how come they're not demanding that Conyers resign and Al Frankenstein resign? Should Conyers go? Should Al Frankenstein go? Is it time for them to resign? 617-266-6868. And what accounts for liberal hypocrisy and double standards? Your calls next.
This is what I'm doing. I'm taking responsibility. I apologize to the women who have felt disrespected. I'm someone who, hugs people.
That's Sexy Al Frankenstein. Okay. More women are now coming out. In fact, there's proof. There's photos. He's a butt grabber. He'll grab them. He doesn't care. I mean, whatever. You can do it at the fair in Minnesota. You can do it at literally at a women's empowerment political caucus. That's at that one. He was grabbing him by the rear end. You take a picture with Al, and if you're a woman under 50, I would say chances are he's going to grab away, baby. 617-266-6868. And my question to you is this. He's going to cooperate, he says, with a Senate ethics investigation. It's obvious to me it's a delay ploy. It's just a delay tactic. Have this thing drag on, and then the outrage fades, and he gets to keep his job. Same thing with John Conyers. Why are Democrats such hypocrites when it comes to sexual harassment? They're all part of the hashtag Me Too movement. And now you have prominent Democrats engaged in out-and-out sexual misconduct. And Pelosi will not call for Conyers to resign. In fact, she calls him an icon. And Al Frankenstein, he's back today in the Senate, and they're giving him a kiss on each cheek. And for the female members of the Senate, be careful. He's going to pinch your fanny. 617-266-6868. Yvonne in Essex. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Hello.
Hi,
yes.
Yvonne.
Okay. So Al Franken, I know his type, and he was a comedian before he became a senator. And now he's a senator, and he hasn't taken seriously the office. And he comes out and says, oh, I hug people, but that's not what they're talking about. It's not a hug. It's a grab. He's not admitting that he's grabbing people. This is how I behaved as a comedian. He could come out and say sorry for it, truly, and say, I'm going to change. I can't be funny. These people think it's funny to be sexually disgusting. And it's okay, I guess, when you're a comedian and he doesn't understand what the office is about and the respect he should have. And
Yvonne, you touch on something very serious, and I want to ask you, okay, as a woman, you know, when you're taking a picture with somebody at an event or whatever it is, and it doesn't just have to be a politician, it could be, I don't know, a talk radio host like me, or a commentator or an author, What does it say about a man that there you are, hi, I like you, I believe in your politics, I like what you stand for, can I take a picture? And he abuses that trust that you put in him, and the picture's about, say, cheese, and he grabs you in the rear end.
Right. And I know people that I've grown up with and that were like that, and I know that type of personality, and if you're my relative or something, you grab me, that's funny, you know what I mean? That has been in my life, but not when I don't know you, and not when you're disrespecting me as, a person at an event, like you said. Like he has no idea where the line is, and he was elected by people that I think they knew he was like outrageous and annoying. They elected him, but now he's trying to minimize it. Where I think if he came out and said, "Yeah, I'm gross, and I should have changed," because when I was a comedian, it was okay, kind of, but no, it really wasn't.
Yvonne, thank you for that call.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. No, look, he is gross, and he's been playing that shtick now for I don't know how many decades. But to me, it's not just that he's immature. Okay, it's not just that he's juvenile and immature. Ha, 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 ha. Let me grab a woman by her rear end. There's another allegation that he grabbed a woman by the rear end. This was in 2008, several months before the election. The one that he stole from Norm Coleman. But let that go. Okay, let that go. Where he said, hey, let's take this to the bathroom. So this is the kind of guy Al Frankenstein is. When you have a woman and you tell her it's time to do some acting or play acting, auditioning for the troops, and then you say, hey, let's do a mock kiss. Now, she's supposed to turn away and say it's disgusting. Instead, he grabs her by the head, by the back of her neck, and sticks his tongue down her throat. And notice, with him, it's a non-denial denial. Well, if they felt I did that, I apologize. It's not how I remember it. Oh, I don't quite remember that. I don't know if it's true. I don't quite remember that. Well, are you the kind of person that sticks your tongue down women's throats? Or are you the kind of person that grabs women by the rear end? Because if you are, then you're guilty. If you're not, then you deny it. It's really very simple. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never stuck my tongue down a woman's throat. I just don't do that. I don't grab women by the rear end. But again, that's me. Maybe it's my upbringing. Because now there's Joe Barton. Did you see that story? Texas Republican. Now, not that he's grabbing anybody, thank the Lord, but now, so here you have a Republican congressman taking a nude picture of himself, sending it online, I guess, to his mistress or girlfriend. And I'm thinking, who does that? I mean, by the way, what a belly on. He looks pregnant. If a man could be pregnant, I'm telling you, Joe Barton, yeah, looks like Santa with the white hair and the huge belly. I mean, I'm thinking like, ay, ay, ay. You think that's a turn on? They are so drunk with power. They think they can do anything and get away with it. It's time to term limit every single member of the swamp. 617-266-6868 for the latest. Let's take it to the newsroom and Jackie Murphy. If you want to work like a dog and have like 1 minute for a bathroom break, let me tell you, Amazon is for you. This is one of the biggest, most shocking stories of our time. And to me, the fact that the media in this state is deliberately trying to cover this up shows to you how corrupt liberalism and the Democratic Party has become. So, here is an absolute bombshell of a story. So let me ask you this question. Who is the richest man on earth? Jeff Bezos. He is the CEO of Amazon, the president of Amazon. He is worth now north of $100 billion. He's wealthier than Bill Gates. He's wealthier than George Soros. He's wealthier than Mark Zuckerberg. He's also, by the way, a prominent liberal, a liberal globalist. He is one of the big sugar daddies of the Democratic Party, along with George Soros. And the primary means or the engine of his wealth has obviously been Amazon. Everybody shops on Amazon. The brick and mortar stores are slowly dying. You want anything, you go on Amazon, you order it, they package it for you, and voila. 24, 48, whatever, 72 hours later, it arrives at your doorstep. And of course, Bezos has been profiting and exploiting this now to now become, as I've said, the richest, wealthiest, most powerful man in many ways in the world. He's a modern-day robber baron, as is the people at Google, as is Bill Gates, as is Mark Zuckerberg. Big tech, as they're commonly referred to. The difference, however, is there are no muckrakers, as there were over 100 years ago. Why? Because this time, the modern-day robber barons line the pockets of the Democratic Party and the Republican establishment, especially the Democrats. They love Jeff Bezos. Well, guess what? Jeff Bezos and Amazon are now running essentially a 21st century equivalent of a sweatshop. And I want to give a big hat tip to the Sun newspaper and the Daily Mirror, both of whom, by the way, in England. And this is an important point I'm going to get to, who had the guts to break this story. When you read about these working conditions, ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, this is almost like a Chinese sweatshop they're running over there. So what has now come out, and by the way, this is the same Amazon that everybody here in Boston, or at least the political elites, in Boston, in Cambridge, in Massachusetts, are throwing themselves at, fawning over each other, to try to attract Amazon for HQ2, their second headquarters, to be based in Boston. And I think, by the way, where's the Boston Globe in exposing these sweatshop conditions? Where's the Herald? Where's Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 25? How come now, all of a sudden, the liberal media now in this state don't want to say a word about Amazon and Jeff Bezos? Because if you actually read what's going on in their warehouses, I am telling you, this is almost like modern-day slavery. It's not slavery, obviously, they're being paid wages, but it's close. So what workers now describe, and what investigative reporters who have now gone into these warehouses pretending to be an employee, what they now describe is a modern-day sweatshop. And so, for example, workers are committed to do 10-hour shifts, nothing wrong with that, but they are working them so hard that they're given a limit of 9 seconds to process each package. Let me repeat that. They are given a maximum time limit of 9 seconds to process each package that is ordered. Workers often have to produce over 300 packages a day. A day. They say they're running around like chickens without a head. Many of them walk 10 miles a day as they go from warehouse to certain sections of the warehouse, running back and forth to get the packages, put it all together, process everything, that they're almost doing half marathons every day. It is getting so bad, the way they're working them so hard, that you have workers that are now asleep on their feet. There are pictures of them falling asleep on their feet. You have other workers that are slumped over, literally falling asleep, collapsing on their chair or on their table. You have complaint after complaint after complaint, where employees are saying, we are being run down, we're not livestock or animals. And you have us running from package to package to package to such a degree that even the bathroom breaks are timed. And the pictures of the bathrooms are disgusting, filthy. I mean, to me, I mean, how does this pass basic sanitation? And the reason why they're so filthy and disgusting is because you've got a minute. You better run, do what you got to do, take a dump, whatever, wipe, and get right back on the job. And in fact, for many hours of the day, they're even denied the right to even go to the bathroom. Because it's all about maximizing productivity. Just work them like dogs. Work them and work them and work them some more. To the point now that they're under so much severe stress that workers say now many of them are suffering from panic attacks and anxiety disorder because every 9 seconds they have to process a package. And rather than hiring more staff or extra staff or relieve some of the pressure, Bezos, who wants to maximize profit, says, you don't like it? There's the door. Cut costs, cut labor costs, and in fact, if anything, switch to robots. And so the situation that's discovered, that's being depicted, and that has now been discovered, it's almost like a dystopian novel. A futuristic dystopian novel. Whereby the only things now that are inefficient, according to Bezos and the people who run Amazon, are quote unquote the humans. That's how they're referred to. The humans. Why? Because unlike robots, humans get tired. Unlike robots, humans get panic attacks. Unlike robots, humans need to sleep. Unlike robots, humans need to go to the bathroom. And so these workers say that they exist to serve the robots. And that they're trying to make them as, quote, efficient human beings as possible by just working them and working them and working them. I mean, this is disgusting. And you want to talk about corporate greed, run amok? You want to talk about power, run amok? You want to talk about labor exploitation and abuse of the workforce, run amok? This is it, my friends. This is a classic example. And yet what to me is incredible, where's Elizabeth Warren? You phony, you fraud, you. Where's Ed Markey? Marcula, I want to suck your blood. I want to take your money. Where's Joe Kennedy III? Where are all these big, prominent liberals and Democrats? They love to bash billionaires. They love to bash the 1%. They love to bash corporations and big business. But notice, when it comes to Amazon, can you hear it? The silence is deafening. It's deafening. Maybe crickets if you're lucky. And what is even more pathetic is that you have Macho Marty Walsh, Mohammed Marty, throwing himself all over Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Bring the headquarters to Boston. We'll give you the seaport. We'll give you tax breaks. We'll give you whatever you want. You've got Charlie Faker, Governor Baker, begging Bezos, just bring HQ2, as it's called, to Massachusetts, anywhere in Massachusetts. The Globe will not touch this story with a 10-foot pole. You know why? Because this time, the robber barons own and control the Democratic Party and the Republican establishment. Because Elizabeth Warren, Mrs. 99% versus the 1%, is in the pocket of Bezos and Amazon. Why didn't the Washington Post break this story? They've got 50 reporters on Russia collusion with Trump. You can't spare one to cover maybe the biggest corporate business story of our time? That Amazon is running a de facto sweatshop? I'll tell you why. Because the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. Where's the New York Times? Jeff Bezos fills their pages with ad revenue. Where's the Boston Globe? They're in bed with Amazon. Amazon is a big part of their revenue through advertising. The Boston Globe knows the Democrats need Amazon, so they will not touch this. But they're all for the working class. Ooh, they love those unions. Ooh, do they hate the 1%? But not Jeff Bezos, or Mark Zuckerberg, or Bill Gates, or Google. I can run down the whole list. I am an economic populist. And just like the populists of over 100 years ago, I am a trust buster. I believe it is now time to break up these giant monopolies and these giant trusts. And just like they ran sweatshops over 100 years ago, they are doing the same thing here. Except they're not doing it in Vietnam or China or Colombia or Brazil. But they're doing it in England, in Europe, and yes, right here in the United States. In warehouses all across the United States. And the liberals won't speak out? And the Democrats won't speak out? Because they're owned by them. They're owned lock, stock, and barrel. You want to know how Jeff Deal can break Elizabeth Warren? Very simple. Come out and say Amazon must be broken up. Just like we broke up Standard Oil, just like we broke up U.S. Steel under the robber barons, it is now time to break up Amazon and Google and Facebook and all the other big tech corporate marauders. Call her out. Will she denounce Amazon? And more than that, will the Democrats in the state say, you know what? We don't want sweatshops in the city of Boston. We don't want to deal with a company that has sweatshops in their warehouses all over America, Europe, and the world. Sorry, Boston, you know what? We're not going to take your money. I know it's going to load up the seaport with investments to the tune of billions of dollars, but we Democrats believe in the little guy. And we're not going to be part of this kind of economic exploitation. I guarantee you the best steak at the Hanover Street Shop House. You will not see Marty Walsh denounce Amazon and their labor practices. You won't see Charlie Faker. You won't see Markey. And you won't see the chief. Pocahontas will not say anything about Amazon. So the question is this. Where does she stand on Amazon? And will she say, if you're running sweatshops, we don't want you in Mass and we don't want you in Boston? I dare her. She won't do it. You know why? Because she's a political whore like the rest of them. She's like a $10 streetwalker. You throw enough political money at her and she will do whatever they want you to do. Will you boycott Amazon? Is it time to boycott Amazon? 617-266-6868 is the number. Your calls next. Well, I got to tell you, if you want to work like a dog, Amazon is for you. I mean, this expose is, you didn't think stuff like this existed in modern America or in Western Europe in the 21st century. 9 seconds to process each package. They're running around like chickens without a head. People are getting panic attacks on the job. They're doing half marathons every day on the floor, dealing with all these packages. Amazon will not hire more staff. In fact, they slowly want to phase out these humans, as they call them, with robots, and they are driving them to sheer and utter exhaustion. Some are actually falling asleep on their feet. And in spite of all of this, the Democrats and the establishment Republicans refuse to denounce Amazon. So my question is, Will you boycott Amazon? Should you boycott Amazon? Dave, you're up first. Go ahead, Dave.
How you doing, Jeff?
Good. How are you?
They have an Amazon right here in Everett, and it's right across the street from where they're building the casino on 99. And if you take the side street across it from where McDonald's is, it's right down on that fork before you get into the produce center. They have a bunch of vans that they use. They used to have the name on them that are delivering all over Mass, but now a lot of them, they must have taken off the name. But they got a huge warehouse right in Everett, down by the produce center.
Now, and Dave, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, these employees, they leave. Like after 2, 3, 4 months, they can't take it. It's like a revolving door down there. Yeah,
exactly. Because I know one of my old supervisors went there for a while, and he ain't there no more. He didn't stay long after, because they were saying the money's going to be really good and everything, but after he found out what was going on, he says adios.
I wouldn't do it, Dave, and thank you. I wouldn't do it. And I'll tell you this, I don't think Brittany or Jared would do it, and they shouldn't. These conditions that they're describing, you've got 60 seconds to go to the toilet? 60 seconds? Hours of the day, even if you want to go to the bathroom, you can't? Apparently, it's like Attila the Hun when it comes to their break hours. Sorry, what hours? Their break times. You've got these people running around. They've got to do 300 an hour, and they just keep pushing them and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. You got people collapsing, falling asleep, slumping in their chair, day after day after day. And to me, look, I'm a libertarian. Don't get me wrong. You know, you don't want to work at Amazon. No one's putting a gun to your head. Just don't work at Amazon. If that's how they want to run their business, that's up to them. I'm not asking for government intervention. Not at all. But to me, it's the hypocrisy. You have the Democrats who claim to be the champion of the working man, who claim to be for unions, who claim to be for good, healthy, decent labor working conditions. You know, just a good, positive working conditions. And you're in bed with these animals who won't even hire a few extra staffers because they want to squeeze every penny of profitability. And you're lecturing us on workers' rights and on what's good for the little man? Hey, blank off. Diane in Lynn. Go ahead, Diane.
Hi, I'm just going to say a couple of sentences, and then I'll just hang up and wait for your response.
Yes.
It's not the job of the socialist Democrats to go out after other guilty socialist Democrats. It's their job to protect them. When are the conservative masses going to act like Democrats and protect our own and go after unrelentingly? Is that a word? Relentlessly.
Relentlessly.
Thank you. And go after them relentlessly. When we know they're guilty, and that would be our job, and we're not doing it. Thank you.
Very well said, Diane. And no truer words were spoken. And look what it's the hypocrisy. So they will stand there and say, oh, I'm for the little guy. But they will take millions and millions of dollars in campaign contributions from Amazon and Jeff Bezos and protect him every step of the way as he runs sweatshop after sweatshop after sweatshop. Not in China, not in Vietnam, but here in America. I say boycott Amazon. Agree? Disagree? More next.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 1 o'clock.
Today is the final